Hi, I'm Liza. I'm a prof in the teaching stream in the Department of Statistical Sciences at the University of Toronto, and I wanted to talk you through something that I use a lot in my large classes. It's a bit of an admin lifesaver, and I've been promising a few people that I would run a tutorial or do something with this, but I know how busy everyone is, and so I figured perhaps doing something asynchronous, just like we're trying to do for our students right now, in some of our classes might be also useful for other instructors who are interested in doing something like this but can't really necessarily make time that works for other people to try it out. I'm very happy for you to get in touch with me if you want to know more about this, but I think this will hopefully introduce you to what you could do with it and why I love it so much. So I've got on the screen a sort of unproofread blog post that I will put the proper version of up when I put this video up. But I thought I would sort of talk you through the big picture first and why I care about this, show you an example, and then maybe show you how I'm going to set some of these up for the coming semester. So there's a lot of things in teaching where it's a pretty formulaic task when it comes to admin that we often manage by email and that I think can be managed perhaps even more easily for both the instructors and the students. So the idea here is that a student needs to have something done. They need to request a regrade or request an extension or a big range of other things, as you'll soon see. Basically, their experience is that they're going to fill out a quick form that they receive a link to. Then they might get an email. That's my most common next step. That gives them either a link to something that they need to access or instructs them on an action they need to take next, or just perhaps provides them some information that they need. And this all happens automatically. The work behind that is a little time consuming in the first setup, but since learning these things, I've been able to just do things very quickly. So this all may become packed too, but I'll show you what this means from a student perspective. So this right here is this waitlist list for my first year class that I teach with Sam Caetano right now. And if I wanted to receive an email with some resources about this course as I'm number 2 on the wait list and really keen to get in, I could just fill this out and I might say I'm number 2 on the wait list. When I submit that, I'm not actually going to show you my inbox because it's still full of emails that I haven't responded to that I should, but what I can show you is that I just sent this email to myself with access to this folder and all these other things and some information about being on the wait list. So this automatically got sent to whoever was filling this out, not just me because it's me, but whatever student with their U of T email. And it's sent from our course email, and it has all this information, and it greets the student by name because of what they put in. And in fact, you'll see my autoresponder that I just auto-responded to myself is a rather big one. And if you're at all interested in why I have so darn much in there, I've got a version of it on my website that sort of talks a little bit about why I'm doing that. Okay, and you can see that I'm getting a message about that email as well. So that's the experience, and this means that no matter what the time of day, if a student is sort of doing a formulaic action that you want them to do, but you just kind of want to be aware of who's doing it or who's being granted access, this is great for that. What this looks like from our side is that we will set up a form, just like you saw, and then we'll use something called Power Automate. So Power Automate is the secret sauce in this whole automation experience. We'll set up a flow in Power Automate, which I'll show you in a moment. Then we'll provide the student with the form link and then set up whatever we want, whether it's to get an email or to have data tracked in an Excel file or to save something to OneDrive or get something from OneDrive. So hopefully the waitlist example kind of shows why I might be in love with something like this, but there's some other broad categories that you might want to consider about deciding if this is something that would be worth your time to learn. So anytime it's a formulaic email to trigger something administrative, and I find particularly if students often forget important information, so you're playing sort of a catch up on, okay, but which assessment were you sick for? Or, but I need to know your ID number to figure out how to link this to whatever part of your record I need to fix. I also think this can be a little more humanitarian to the students because I know when I was a student, there was plenty of emails that I would stress over writing profs where really all the prof needed was, just one quick line or something, or responded with just one quick line. So this can kind of make sure that you get the information you need and make the student side of the experience perhaps a little less stressful, a little more clear cut. No sweating even over on how to address you in the email or whatever. It's also a really good way to sort of keep track of data that students are providing. So one of the first semesters I taught, I had been trying to record accommodations, but things got a little out of hand and I wasn't really keeping up with emails. I was trying to dump all these emails in an accommodations folder so I could go back and double check I hadn't missed anything. But of course, things were missed. This way, as students enter that data, it's stored in this Excel sheet, and then you have that right in front of you to double check against, to sort, to filter, etc. So it makes things a little bit more easy than trying to sort of trudge through your emails at the end of semester when you know you promised something, but you can't remember what it was. I'm sure there's lots of other cases that people might use this for. I've got one or two more below, but these are broadly, I think, the kinds of areas you could think about applying this automation in. So the example I just showed you from the student experience is that waitlist info sign up. The other piece that's important though from our experience as the instructors or teaching team setting it up is that when we have the settings for Microsoft Forms, make sure that you're actually limiting to people in your organization and recording the name, because that's actually what's going to record the email of the person you're wanting to contact. And if you're doing any of this process by emailing the student, you need that email to work. I would recommend you get it captured automatically instead of asking the student to type their email, because I certainly mistype my email on a pretty frequent basis, and I know my students do as well. So that's one of the things I think is most useful about this MS Forms being integrated, at least in our case here at U of T, being integrated with our emails. Okay, so then this is Power Automate. So the setup for my waitlist form is one of the sort of simpler versions of this. I've gone in to my flows and I've created a new flow, but I'll show you that in a moment. For now, I'll show you what's in that waitlist flow. So the first thing I have is a task saying this is related to a form. Something needs to happen. There needs to be some trigger related to a Microsoft form, this sort of F logo. And you can see that I have quite a lot of forms, so sometimes this can take a little bit of scrolling and typing, but the one I want to use as a trigger is this Stat 130 Waitlist Resource Sign Up Fall 2021, a template for which I have provided. The next thing I'm going to do is just pull the response details from this form and say, okay, so this form being responded to is this trigger, and now I want you to get some information from the form for me. Part of this is just superstition or things I've cobbled together along the way, so I'm in no way claiming to be a Power Automate expert. I'm claiming that I can most of the time do the thing I need to do using Power Automate. So feel free to let me know if there's a better way to set any of this up once you've started to play with it yourself. Now here's where the magic happens. This connects with my Outlook. You do have to at some point sort of set up your integrations. You'll have to probably approve that they can be logged in together, but that was a very easy process. And I don't know how to show it to you again. So this is the email I want to send. I want to send it to this respondent's email, so I can put in this dynamic text, responder's email, that pulls exactly from the form. And then I've got a subject line, just as you normally would. Georgia tends to be my favorite font, blah, blah, blah. I've got links put in there, bolding, etc. I might say, oh, that needs a space in there. But then the other thing is that you can personalize the emails so that when the student puts in their name or their preferred name, you can go, hi, Liza, or hi, preferred name. And for not a lot of work, I think it's just a nice, more personal touch, especially in big classrooms where there's a lot of bulk communication. So in our example for our waitlist, we don't add students to our Quirkus because we sort of think that risks some confusion. But we do understand that people might want to watch some videos ahead of time if they think they're very likely to get into the course as people drop. So in our folder in OneDrive, we just provide a link where it's view only, and students can read through some of the sort of course setup, like meet the profs, things like that, and watch some of the videos, and of course have a look at the syllabus. We also want to make sure that they're a little bit reassured, especially for our first year course, that if they miss the first 2 weeks but get in, that we have thought of them, and we have assessment practices and flexibility in mind, so that they're not going to be penalized hopefully for joining off the waitlist, because we're happy to have them. So this is my sort of favorite, easiest use case example, the waitlist email. I'm going to show you a couple others, but I'll probably speed through different bits and not narrate, and then just narrate some important points. But remember, once I have actually shared this video, there will be a version of this blog with different templates that you could use. So the first one I'm going to show you is I'm actually going to duplicate a regrade request form from an old course of mine. So you'll have this link and you'll be able to duplicate it for your personal forms. And I'm going to get it set up for my new course Stat 130. So I'm going to do that, speed up the video, and then talk to you about what I've done. Okay, so this is my current draft of my regrade request form. There's several assessments that a student might want to request a regrade for, but something we frequently see is that they don't tell us the assessment that it's for, or they don't give us enough information to find them in our gradebook, which can happen in a large course. So our gradebook often gets organized by discussion groups, and so that's easiest to find a student if they can tell us which discussion group that they're in. And select the assessment. And we also sort of implement this cooling down day so that instead of getting, 30 just unhappy emails when a grade comes out, you give people a chance to reflect on the grade and then in a sort of cooler mind decide whether or not they think it's fair and write a reasonable justification. We don't always get it right, so it's great to have this kind of mechanism, but I think this supports a more fruitful conversation. So they have to agree that they have waited this 24 hours before sending it. Once again, we can personalize it to their name. It helps us for just searching students in a large course to have their UTOR ID and the assessment and their assessment group, as I said, select which of these assessments it is related to, and then provide two different ways that they could put in a justification. Sometimes it's a shorter thing like, I appear to have had a 0 loaded, but I can see all these other marks. Maybe it was just a typo. And that can be like a nice quick typed answer. But other times they might want to bring in screenshots and sort of create a PDF, and so then they can upload the kind of whatever documentation they might want to hear. So this is my form for the regrade request. Now what I'm going to go do is create a new flow. This just asked me to save. Create a new flow and just build an automated cloud flow. And the name I'm going to add is going to be STA 130 regrade requests. And it's going to be triggered when a new response is submitted to a form. So we're going to have to pick that in a minute. So the form that I want to pick is STA 130, what did I call it? F21 regrade request. 30 F21, there we go, regrade request. Now my new step is going to, I want a forms and I want to get response details. So my form, stay 130 fall 21 regrade request, and I want to just get the response ID. Now my new step, I'm just going to go check the old version of one of my others. So what I'm actually going to do right now is remembering that how much I did not enjoy writing that question last time, or writing that condition last time. I'm going to say, if you would prefer to provide a link to a document, e.g. in your U of T OneDrive or Google, you can put the link below instead. And then I might just add a caution, please make sure the permissions will allow us to see it. Cool. So now it's a slightly simpler question, and to make a slightly simpler flow, I can now just say, okay, gonna go Outlook. I want to send an email. I want to send it to the responder's email. I want to say regrade request, and then I want to say which assessment it was for, and then for the body of my email I will go hi, and then we will put in the name of the student. And then last time, I'm just reusing some text. I put, this is an automated email confirming we have received your regrade request regarding the following assessment. And I can just put that in again. Which assessment do you wish to request a regrade for? Full stop. And then I will put, let's see, all of these in, but I'll make some slight tweaks. So I'll say your UTOR ID, and just to make sure that this is the fresh, correct attached one, I will just redo that. and then your detailed justification. So the reason I'm including all of this is because this is going to get sent to me as an email as well. So our head TA in one of my courses will help a lot with these types of regrade requests. So this means that we're all working from one place, the inbox, when dealing with these requests. So this is for your regrade to be considered. You must provide a detailed justification. Was that the question I wanted? Yeah. So that's the question. I want to either include whatever link that the student has provided to us or include their justification there. And then I'll say, assuming your justification is sufficiently detailed, and here you could just say that it has to be or else it's being ignored, but I'm going to tell them that if it's not enough, we'll just try to let them know that. We'll send a confirmation of the regrade request outcome via email. And I might say within 1 week of the end of the regrade request period, because that gives us time to consider all the regrades as a bulk if we wish. And in this course, it's from myself and Sam Caetano. So I'll sign that off from us. So this will be, hi so-and-so, this is an automated email confirming these things, confirming these other details. Now, this is where some of the other important things are. I want this to be sent from my STA 130 email. So my STA 130 teaching team. I don't want this coming from my personal email because I want our head TA and my co-instructor to all have access to it. So whichever one of us is dealing with regrades will be able to do this. There's a lot of other things you can do with CCs and BCCs and attachments and other settings. For some reason, it automates it to low, I think. So I want to just make it be normal importance. And then I can save this here. So now if I was to test this regrade request form, there we go. So now I'm in student mode. I'm saying, yes, I did wait. I'm not just having a freak out after the first time I saw my grade. I'm going to spend some time thinking about this. I want to be called Liza. My UTOR ID. And then let's say my problem set 7 hadn't gone very well. I'm in discussion group 1. Ooh, that reminds me, I want to add that to my flow as well. Your UTOR ID, because this is really useful to my head TA, your discussion group. And then I can go add dynamic content, and I want, let's see if this is updated fully. There we go. That's the question I want. Let's put full stops for completeness. Okay. So that has, I think, all the information I've tried to capture from the student in the form, aside from just that they did confirm this, but they sort of have to. So this pulls in all the other information that I might need from them. Okay, so let's save that to make sure it behaves the way that we expect it to. And then let's actually fill out this form like I was saying. Let's say I'm in discussion group 1. I say, I worked really hard, A+, please. When I submit that, the email that I should get from STA 130 will be in my sent items. So actually one more change that I want to make here is currently this goes directly to the student and it is in your sent file, but my favorite extra little trick for making sure that it's easy for my head TA to see is I also will just CC ourselves as well. So now when I save that, I can actually test this again with a recently used trigger, the one that worked just 38 seconds ago. So now when I test this, I'm gonna have in my inbox this. So I can see the student, so I can reply to this, and I could say this, I could say, hi Liza, this isn't a sufficiently detailed request. Please review the policy and get back to me. Thanks. Also Liza. And so this would work really well for this, and then we could move it into a regrades folder that we often make for these different assessments. So this ends up meaning that you have an email that has all the information you need off the bat from the student, and that you can then work with really easily as a team to answer. So that is my new regrade request form. For this to actually be in final distribution in my class, I'm going to have to make sure my discussion groups are updated. We have more than 5. And I'm going to run it past the head TA because she's the one who helps with a lot of this and had a lot of the good ideas about what makes it hard for students to request these successfully and in a meaningful way. So that's how I do a regrade request for STA 130. The other one that I can show you is a declaration of absence. So I will add these to this form, but for now, I'm just showing you how I would duplicate this. So once again, this is for my old 3rd year course. If I was going to duplicate this for 130, I would do that, and I'll do another sort of speed run of making some changes for this and be back talking to you in a second. All right, so this is my draft of my illness or personal emergency declaration. I've done a similar thing to what I just showed you with the regrade request, where in terms of the setup, behind the scenes and the flow, it's actually probably easiest to just ask students to give you a link to a document, especially considering the fact that a doctor's note is not required, at least certainly in our course, and as I believe has been recommended across the university, that you don't really want students going to the doctor for paperwork during a global health crisis. But if they have something that they do want to provide, and they can provide a link that way, that's fine. Or if there's other things about the accommodation, like perhaps when they know they'll have access to internet again, although it's hard to fill out the form if you don't, but when they know they'll have some time, or whatever their circumstances demands, or if they perhaps have a timeline of when they might be expected to recover. So this just gives them a bit of space to put whatever you might need to know in order to help them. So a bit like writing an email, but a little more constrained so that students don't feel like they have to over-disclose. Because I definitely think some students feel like that they have to disclose things they might not be comfortable disclosing in order to earn your trust or your extension. And I find that there's less of this with the forms than when they're trying to write you an email when they're feeling a little bit desperate. So I think this is, as I had sort of signaled before, a good way to help take care of your students' time and take care of your own time, especially when they might be going through something very stressful or time-consuming or upsetting. So there we go. Now this is the same kind of thing with the forms, where I can go My Flows, create a new flow, Automated Cloud Flow. I've also included something that I think is really important in writing this email, where you can just tell them that they don't have to do anything further until we respond to that email, because often students are worried about the illness or the emergency in their own life and then sending us repeated emails, when really once they've done what they're supposed to do, I want them to be able to focus on getting better or dealing with the situation that they're in or whatever it is. So I think this can help sort of give them some confidence that they have done the thing that they needed to. This is also a great chance to make sure that they have some of the health and wellness resources that the university can provide to them, including like my student support program, where the support is provided in multiple languages and they can sort of go to them to figure out perhaps what they need to do next. Obviously, if it's emergency, call 911, but I don't think they're writing an email quite in those cases. So once again, a pretty simple process to get all of this to work. Oops, the only other thing I forgot is I want to make sure it's sent from STA 130. If I don't do anything here, I think it just sends it from me, which isn't the end of the world. But I'd also like to CC me so that that's how I am, 130, getting notified when students send this in. I'm not spending time looking at the form, I'm spending time sort of dealing with the inbox, as is my co-instructor and our head TA. So there we go. This is another form. It's pretty formulaic at this point, but I do think it just sort of helps take out, once you do the little bit of setup, gives the students some certainty, have less back and forth with us in emails, and all around is a pretty good win on that front. The other thing that you might consider doing with this, like I said, is recording due dates, or perhaps using this to invite people to a calendar event. Or if you've got, say, a department event that's like a guest speaker and you're not too worried about controlling the guest list, say, but you want people to register and then you'll just send them the Zoom link, you could do something like this where you have it set up so they're instantly sent the email with the Zoom link. This is really helpful when people register for an event like 15 minutes before it starts and you're not having a time to look things up or whatever. Not great if you really want to be able to vet that list before you send things out, but there's plenty of circumstances where I'm just inviting all of our undergrads and we're doing like a art in statistics event or whatever. And I am not doing any particular vetting. If they have a U of T address and can log in, they're welcome to come join us. So yeah, lots of different things you could do with this. I think I've only scratched the surface. What you'll see with this video, hopefully, is an updated version of this blog post that has some of the things I just showed you put into it for you to reuse however you might wish to. And I also, at the same time, have been writing just a little bit of a mishmash post of some of the things I'm thinking about going into fall. I'm still teaching mostly online, but it'll include some of my sort of favorite things to do or things that I'm trying out. But this is one of those things, but deserved a whole post and video of its own. I'm apologizing for where it was a little long-winded. I haven't really tried to demo this before, but I tried to resist the urge to practice too much because it wasn't the best use of my time. But I did want to be able to sort of share this for anyone who was interested or interested enough to gut through my slightly convoluted explanation. All right, best of luck with your own adventures in automation, and reach out if there's anything I can help you with.